And I can remember the smells that morning. And then when we caught a trout out of the river that was going by, they cleaned it on the spot and put it in the frying pan. We had that for breakfast. Those two smells I will never forget. When I was a young boy, I loved model airplanes. I'd spend hours building them down in the basement. My world was very small. Missoula at the time was a very small town. We lived in the first house till just after the World War II. A guy just down the street built a theater. And in those days, there were the big major chains, Fox and United Artists. And this guy was an independent. He bought his own films from whoever would sell it to him, and he ran his family theater. Well, I went to work for him setting the marquee and cleaning up at night after the show was over. Well, then his son was about 6, 7 years older than I was, decided he wanted a few nights off. So he taught me how to be a projectionist. And every night I was in the theater, or almost every night, working. It wasn't, the guy was, I guess he gave me many of the values I have in life because he was so tight that a penny squealed when it came out of his pocket. So I did that from all the way from grade school through high school and into college. And there's not much in the theater business that I didn't learn, including the buying or the selling of the tickets, cleaning the theater, setting the marquee, projectionist, buying the movies from the producers, and arguing with them. And that's what I learned in life, to negotiate, argue with the salesman as they come by trying to sell you a movie. And when you're working on a shoestring, you don't buy the first runs. You're getting the second ones or third ones as they've been through a town.
I met my husband when I was a freshman and he was a senior. I went to one high school and he had just moved from that high school to another high school, and if it hadn't been for the fact that the band met together, we might have not met or not known each other. And our first date was after a football game, and I was very, kind of in awe of him because he was a senior and I was a freshman.
I did have my own dance band. We played New Year's Eve and wherever it was. I was a drummer, and we put everything in an old car and we'd go up and play a gig and made a few dollars and we did whatever we could to make $1 or $2.
He would be in the band and I would be dancing with other guys, and so I would have to be really careful because he'd watch me as we were go around the dance floor, and I'd have to get behind posts or anything I could because he really didn't want me to dance. He wanted me to wait till he had his break. Well, my dad, he loved it, Roy. It's just the fact that his motorcycle, when he liked me to ride. He wanted me to be as adventurous and daring and outgoing as he is. And we were in a big, what would you call that, reservoir. He'd go up around the sides, standing up on his seat and all that. Well, he had a 500cc, whatever, bike. And he said, and this is when he was in college, he said, if you'll drive that, you can do this, you can do this. You can bring that motorcycle up over the hill, and I'll take you to the military ball, because he didn't like to go to the military ball. And so I did it, and I mean, I had that thing going so fast that when I got up over the top of it, I pulled it over on my leg, and it wasn't hurt badly, but my dad was very upset, and he said, okay, Roy, do you want a gal or a pal?
Another one of those points in life where I should have said. And I bought my first matchless, which was a 500 twin or 500 single, and I rode that for 2 or 3 years, and raced it. Decided it wasn't fast enough, so then I saved my money up and I bought me a BSA Gold Star, a Club and Gold Star. And that one I had very good racing success with, and raced all over Montana, Idaho, Washington. Drag raced them, I hill climbed them, I scrambled with it, a TT or cross country. Had a really good time, was pretty good, won a lot of trophies. I'd still like to do that again today. But then it ended up, a friend of mine and I went into business together and got a Triumph dealership my last 2 years in college. And we sold Triumphs and repaired them, and it was a good time. We got married on July 1st of 1961.
Because we had been going together for 5 years, I don't even remember a special time that he asked me, but we ended up together. Wedding day was interesting because I'm one of these people that wants to be in charge of everything, and they finally had to move me out of the room saying, you know, you will take care of everything. We were trying to keep our costs down, and we didn't know exactly that this was going to happen, but the person that rolled the, you know, usually have the satin walkway that when you're walking down the aisle, well, they used paper. As we were walking down the aisle, I could feel in here the paper, my heels going through the paper all the way to the pulpit.
But it was a nice little family get-together. All the family was there. I think at the time we may have had $100 to our name. And the honeymoon, we went to Spokane, Washington, and the Grand Coulee Dam, and then we went back home. In high school, I wasn't real good, but I lettered in skiing in high school. I competed. And then in college, I continued to ski, and there I competed throughout the Northwest, I call it University Ski Team. And being the dummy I was, I entered in all 4 events, cross-country, jumping, downhill, and slalom. I wasn't very good in any of them, but I had a good time and got lots of exercise. That was what I would do. And then we'd, of course, ski on whenever you could. I did not know what I wanted to do. I knew I needed to go to school. I knew I was poor in math. I was not a great writer. And so I said, well, I think that in business would be where I need to be. So I went to School of Business at Montana State University and specialized in banking and finance. A friend of mine from ROTC, a guy named Richie Graham, who was in the ROTC program with me, we were walking across the campus one fall afternoon, and we were talking, and we said, you know, why don't we become fighter pilots? So Richie and I said, okay, let's become fighter pilots. Now I was, 19, 20 years old. That was the first time I ever figured out that I was ever going to do anything. I graduated December 15th with my commission as a second lieutenant in the Air Force, and was called to active duty on 8 March of 1962. We left Missoula with our car, and that was our total possessions in life, car and a trailer with our bedding and stuff. We drove down through Utah, drove down through Las Vegas, Nevada, and to this day I can remember the look on both of our faces as we saw Las Vegas for the first time. The lights and the cars and the money was unbeknownst to us, either one of us. And from there we went to Williams Air Force Base in Chandler, Arizona. That was my first duty station for pilot training. I graduated in April of '63, and my wife was about 3 months pregnant, couldn't fit into her clothes. But we still have the picture of her pinning my wings on and her hat on in those days, and her long gloves, long white gloves.
And since he was the first in his class, he was able to choose the plane he wanted.
And the F-101 is a high T-tail, supersonic, straight-line interceptor aircraft. Radar carries 4 missiles, and you would take off, and the first one was a target. So you would go out over the Atlantic Ocean early in the morning, come back in, climb up to altitude, and go supersonic. So you would become the first supersonic target for the day.